Today on the Chiefs Report, we talk about what Brett Veach will do in the 2024 offseason as we talk about the Chiefs free agents and who I think he will sign back, and maybe some free agent targets he may look to go after. All that coming up right here on the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Jay Sanders, and if you want your Chiefs news, you want injury news, you want Chiefs memes, you want Chiefs rumors, everything, well, I got it for you on my Twitter or X account, and I'll tell you what. Why don't you give me a follow on there at JaceAndrews_. And the next 10 people who do so, I'm going to follow you right back. So we're going to put that link in the comments of this video. Go check it out at JaceAndrews_ on X or on Twitter. Go follow me. I'll give you a follow right back to the next 10 people who do it. I'm excited to have you join me on Twitter because, listen, I post a lot of funny stuff. I'm a funny guy. Plus, if you want your news right away, well, then you can follow me on there. We have to take some time, make some videos. That takes a little bit. We're usually pretty quick, but Twitter, instantaneously, you're getting it right off the bat. So make sure you give me a follow on Twitter. Let's talk about the top Chiefs free agents coming up here in 2024. Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed lead the way as the top two, both defensive. And you're kind of going to recognize on this list, the main top free agents are defensive guys. L'Jarius Sneed, Willie Gay Jr., Drue Tranquill, Mike Edwards, Derrick Nnadi, Mike Danna, all defensive guys. And in my opinion, those are probably the top guys in terms of free agents. Past them, you got Tommy Townsend, the punter. I hope the Chiefs will retain him. And then Jerick McKinnon, the running back, who I have talked a lot about, but unfortunately his injury, haven't gotten to see him in full effect in a good while now. 25 total free agents, though, for the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously including all these guys. But the two I want to talk about, Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed, because I think that will be the big choice for this offseason for Brett Veach. Now, Chris Jones is probably looking for a contract north of $30 million. Chiefs don't even have that much, so I don't know how they're going to work that out. We'll talk about that in kind of a second here. But on top of which, L'Jarius Sneed, he's been a lockdown cornerback, and in my opinion, maybe the best cornerback in the NFL this year. Will he get the contract for it? We'll see. Right now, his market value is sitting somewhere around the $15 to $16 million range. Obviously, since L'Jarius has been with the Chiefs for his whole career, maybe he gives a little hometown discount. I don't exactly know, but I think the thing is you're keeping one of them. You're not keeping both of them. So who are you keeping in this option? Are you keeping L'Jarius Sneed? Then I want you to type S. Are you keeping Chris Jones? Well, if you're doing that, then I want you to type J. I think, honestly, the Chiefs are going to aim to keep Chris Jones. That's just kind of the vibes I've been getting from Brett Veach and the thing that we've kind of been talking about and kind of seeing media availability and just everything going on with organization-wise. They want Chris Jones. It's just about whether or not they're going to be able to keep him. But that may be up to Chris Jones. So who are you keeping, though? L'Jarius Sneed, type S. Chris Jones, type J. Now, the Chiefs' estimated cap space sits right at around $24 million. And I know what you're thinking, Jace. I've watched this show for the past 2 months or 3 months. It wasn't at $30 million just a couple days ago. Yeah, you're right, except the incentives that the players are doing this year. So every incentive that Chris Jones is hitting, every incentive that Kelsey, Mahomes, all these players, Pacheco, are hitting, that's added on to next year's cap space. So in theory, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, that cap space is probably going to drop a little more because the incentives go on to next year's cap. That's when the money will go in. Now, there is not too big of a reason to be afraid because there's always ways to make space here. And I want to reference this because the Saints, they always are like negative $82 million in cap space and somehow find a way to be positive by the end of free agency and end up signing people. They signed Derek Carr last year. They signed him after, guess what? They had negative money. Brett Veach can figure out something. I know he's got a lot on his mind, but I'm telling you, we know he wants to keep this train moving and keep the Chiefs good for a long time coming. So I'm expecting him to make some more space. Now, what are some top targets that he could go after? Because obviously we know, like I said, Brett Veach has never been one to just sit on his hands, even when the Chiefs are winning. Even when they've been good, Brett Veach has always been trying to find the ways to make the Chiefs better. Last year, bringing in Mike Edwards, just finding ways to kind of make this team a step above the rest. He's been great at the draft process, but how can he make it in the free agent realm? Well, let's talk about the top targets that I think he may go after. The first one we've talked about pretty much since week one, T. Higgins. Talked about possibly trading for him, but obviously being in the AFC and being the Bengals a rival of the Chiefs, just like every other team in the AFC that has lost to them, so everyone, T. Higgins is a top target, and I think it's very easy to see why. 25 years old, coming up on his free agency season after being drafted back with Joe Burrow's time and his receptions, his yards, his average, his touchdowns. they all stand out, along with the Bengals uniforms. I'm not going to lie. I don't like the Bengals. Not a good team, and they're a bunch of whiners and criers. The white uniforms are pretty cool, I will say that. But still, over 3,600 yards in less than 60 games, 257 receptions, and the average, y'all all know I'm an average guy. 14 yards per catch is freaking amazing. I want that on my team, and I would love to have him. He is a more expensive option. His market value is probably north of what the Chiefs would like to spend on a wide receiver, considering they made it to the Super Bowl this year. But at the same time, if you balance out some contracts, you don't get Chris Jones, maybe you go a little spendy on someone else. Maybe that guy is T. Higgins. Would you like the Chiefs to sign T. Higgins? Well, I want you to let me know in the comment section down below. Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Let me down in the comment section why if you're getting T. Higgins, in if you are not. Next guy is Leonard Williams, 29-year-old who just went to the Seahawks after being with the Giants for a majority of his career. Leonard is one of those guys who you're questioning, why is he on this list? Well, if you lose Jones, you're going to need some help on the defensive line. And you can kind of move Williams to the interior and make him a defensive tackle. And his stats are pretty dang good as well. Overall, not like a Chris Jones figure, but he's not going to be the price of Chris Jones either. The pass rush win rate. It's the one that I always like to look at. Now, if you want to compare him to Mr. Chris Jones is a pass rush win rate percentage of 18%, which basically means when he gets off a block, he is winning that block 18% of the time. Leonard Williams, 12% of the time. So not as good, but still, he's not going to be the price of this. The main takeaway from Leonard Williams, if you do not get Chris Jones, you're going to have to do one of two things, maybe both. And we'll talk about why this may be even more important later on in the show, but this defensive line is going to need help without Chris Jones in a lot of ways just because he's such a big force. I know Karlaftis has been great as well as Jones, but he's just kind of that presence on the field that you need somebody to kind of fill in a way. And no one's going to be Chris Jones, but you need some kind of depth help in that way. And obviously you saw on that free agent list, Mike Danna and along with Derrick Nnadi, guess what? They're both free agents, so it'll be interesting to see that. You know what's also interesting, though? Prize Picks, and you can go get your $100 deposit match on prizepicks.com/CLNS. By using code CLNS, you're going to get that $100 deposit match. Prize Picks is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game, and it's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS because it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Now, I used my $100 deposit match on Prize Picks at the beginning of the season. Guess what? I'm still rolling with that. I'm still rolling with it, and I've won 6 out of my last 8. So put this one in with me. I've got the more on Patrick Mahomes, more than a half a passing yard. Yeah, that's a little deal. They got 99% off right now. Go put it in while it lasts. Isaiah Pacheco, more than a half a rushing or receiving touchdown. He scored a touchdown in every playoff game thus far. I expect him to score again in the Super Bowl. And then Christian McCaffrey, more than 35.5 receiving yards. We've seen what he's been able to do against a lot of teams. And the Chiefs, who have struggled with receiving backs, yeah, I'm going to take the more on that every single day of the week. Testing my skills on Prize Picks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And if you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Now, you see that promotion with Patrick Mahomes, 99% off the passing yards. That's not all they have. They have Taco Tuesday, where they discount a select player of up to 25% to provide even more value. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So go get your $100 deposit match by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and using the code CLNS for that first deposit match. Shout out to Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. Chiefs free agency targets right here. Marquize Brown, age 26. Guess what? Yeah, he's pretty dang good. I would love to see him potentially with the Kansas City Chiefs. And ultimately, he has digressed since his time with the Ravens, I will say. Over 1,000 yards back in 2021, but then 700 and then 500. But there is something to say that this year, a majority of his year was spent with Josh Dobbs as his quarterback. Clayton Tune even came in there and played a game. I don't really trust that. Even though Kyler is what we would call a quote-unquote good quarterback, he does not throw the ball as well as other people. Guess what Marquize Brown does have? Speed. You know what the Chiefs love? Speed. We've talked about Marquize a lot, and I think he's one of those of a cheaper option. I don't know that it's going to be one that they explore, but if there's somebody who's out there that's going to be cheaper and a wide receiver the Chiefs go after, I think it could be Marquize Brown. I want you to give me a free agent you want the Chiefs to sign. Get his name in the comment section down below. Maybe I'm missing him. Maybe I'm about to say him. Well, let me know in the comment section down below. The next one is a running back because, well, we're going to need him. Zack Moss. I think he would be a perfect sign for the Chiefs. Pretty young still. He's done really well when asked upon, backing up Mr. Jonathan Taylor, who is probably one of the best, if not the best, running back in the National Football League as we speak right now. And the reason Moss would be a good sign. The running back free agents for the Chiefs, both of the backups, Jerick McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You have Pacheco, which is great, but this is your RB2, this is your RB3. They're both free agents. You got to fill that role in some way, somehow. So why not go get a guy who has proven himself as a starter and a backup? That way, you kind of have a good option for Pacheco now. I think in the past probably 5 weeks of the season that he probably improved his, I'm going to say value, I would guess would be. So he's probably a little more expensive, but I still think it's an option to explore. I think that McKinnon and Edwards-Helaire actually, though, might be re-signed. So we will see. DJ Reader is the final option I have for the Chiefs free agency targets. He's a little older than the rest of the guys, kind of around the Leonard Williams type. But at the same time, you're going to need a defensive tackle help. And younger defensive linemen are not going to be cheap. You need defensive linemen any way possible because 3 of your starting defensive linemen right now are not under contract in the 2023 season. That's not exactly the greatest thing. Now, you've had a great year in sacks. You've had the second most sacks of any team. But you've got to continue that. Your defense has been great. It's been the best defense in the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era. I want to keep it that way. If we look at the defensive line for the Chiefs that they have right now, Mike Danna, Chris Jones, Derrick Nnadi, Tershawn Wharton, Malik Herring. Guess what? All free agents. I don't like that. And obviously, if you look at starters, that's 3 of 4 guys off the line. Plus, not to mention Jones, Noti, and Danna. They have all been pivotal roles in this Chiefs Super Bowl run. Chris Jones maybe more than the others, but Noti obviously, unfortunately, on IR. His season is done. Danna, he's going to be a big guy to step up in the Super Bowl. I can expect him to be a big role, especially with O'Menahue now out due to that torn ACL. You need to find a way to either sign back both Noti and Danna or sign back Danna or Noti and then go find yourself another defensive lineman, either DJ Reader, Leonard Williams, there's a couple other guys. Unfortunately, though, you got to try and find a way to figure it out because this defense is honestly the reason you're at the Super Bowl in a lot of ways. So I'm excited to see what Brett Veach does. Now, I will say this before I let you go. They've drafted well over the last 2 years. You talk about the drafts they've had. Leo Chenal, Josh Williams. They've had Trent McDuffie, Rashee Rice. I mean, that's just a few names to talk about, and we've talked about how good they are. It makes the needs in the offseason a little less because you have guys who you know maybe aren't starters right now, but can be next year. Which brings up Felix Anudike-Uzomah, first-round draft pick last year. Guess what? Hasn't played. He's an edge. Maybe you don't sign Danna. You sign back Noti. You keep Noti, Karlaftis, and Danna. Or excuse me, and then have Felix Anudike-Uzomah on the left side. You just figure out a defensive tackle to either draft or sign. Your defensive line is still pretty good. We'll see what happens, though. Obviously, the draft will help out a lot, but hey, we'll figure it out. Again, follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I got a bunch of cool stuff on there. And again, following back the next 10 people who follow me at JaceAndrews_. I'll make sure to put that links in the comment section down below. For now, Chiefs Kingdom, peace out.